Welcome to my new blog, Beneath the Shadows. This blog is going to be everything that can give you that immersive experience for me to connect to you, the readers. We're going to lean into things all morally gray about my characters, those forbidden love arcs that I love to write, my world building, which a lot of you seem to like, and how I create magic systems, and then also that emotional journey that dark fantasy romance genre brings us. Because we all know we have scars. Sorry. I have them too, even though sometimes I am the culprit for giving them to you. But anyway, this vlog series is going to be perfect for viewers and readers who love dark fantasy romance, my book talkers and bookstagrammer communities, my Kindle Unlimited people, but also if you're just a fan of like listening in to authors talk about their morally great characters, how they develop them, dragons, fae, cursed worlds. Mwah. All that beautiful, beautiful stuff that comes with dark fantasy romance. So with that said, let's get started. For those of you who don't know me, hi, I'm BK Cavaleri. I am a four-time published indie author with my fifth book slotted to be released in December. I am so, so, so excited for this. And for those of you who don't know, ARCs are open. Pre-orders are open too. If you sign up for my ARC, the first four books in the series comes free as review copies. So definitely a huge opportunity. And then those who pre-order get beautiful artwork. I don't have it on me right now. Um, Bonus two chapters and then corresponding like bookmark and stickers. So lots of fun stuff that is coming up in the future here. I will post all these links though in the comment section after I post this on my YouTube channel. So why are we here? Today's episode is going to be all about why we love dark fantasy romance. But before we deep dive into this beautiful subject, I should probably let you guys know who the fuck I am. Some of you that are joining in already know, but it's always nice to kind of give a little bit of background about myself, and that way we can kind of connect a little bit more together. So,
Oh,
anyway, I am an indie author. I live in Michigan. I'm married. I've been married for, I think we're going on 13 years now. I have two boys. I am a boy mom. Both of them are rainbow babies. They're 5 and one's going to be turning 9. This is an exciting year for both of them because first time they'll be in the same elementary school together. So it's going to be cute and a new thing. We do have one dog for my dog lovers out there. Her name is Briar Rose. Yes, from Sleeping Beauty. And she is a Australian Shepherd. We call her the old goat of the family because she is 14 years old. She's been with us since I graduated actually PT school. So I work full time as an outpatient orthopedic physical therapist. A lot of my author writing stuff happens in the evening because of this job. In conjunction to that, I also am a specialist with treating vestibular disorders, which is vertigo. Ooh. If anybody has ever had vertigo, they know how much of a nightmare it is and how thankful people are when you start to feel better with it. And then I also am certified in dry needling, which is a form of acupuncture. I love all things holistic. When it comes to medicine, I think it's a very important piece that we're missing. So that's a little segue into kind of my life currently. I always get questions about like, what are my hobbies? What do I like to do? My PA, Allie, who I will talk about so much because she's an amazing person and I love her. She did a beautiful post on my Instagram page about my vibes and my tropes, which is my favorite. I thought it was like super fun. So I'm just going to read to you. I wrote this down so I wouldn't miss any of them. Kind of about what my vibes are and what my tropes are as a person. So my vibe, June Gemini. If you haven't picked that up yet, it'll all make sense as you continue on with this video. I'm still in my Pokemon era. I love Pokemon. I'm not so much of like the card collector. My son and my husband are, but my youngest son is named Ash. So if that clues you in a little bit, there you go. I'm definitely married to my soulmate. We balance each other out a lot. I'm a little bit chaotic. He's a little bit more grounded. Um, we definitely complement each other because of that. I am a huge super fan of Pride and Prejudice. Um, that's my favorite book. I think I own like four different like version copies of it because of covers and gifts that people got me. My bridesmaids definitely signed all a book of Pride and Prejudice for me for my wedding day. But my favorite fantasy series is The Dragon Riders of Pern. Sorry to your fourth wingers out there, but dragons existed before this. Dragon Riders existed before this. And there was someone much hotter that existed before this. I'm just gonna leave that out there. I am officially obsessed, if you can't see my shirt, with C dramas, but also Jung Lee-ha. I gotta say his name right, just all due respect. Jung Lee-ha. He's a Chinese actor, but I love Chinese dramas. The historical pieces are my favorite. I love like the cinematography of it. I think it's very beautiful. I've fallen in love with the Mandarin language. I like pick up a few things here and here, like Wei Shima. That's one of my favorites. I probably pronounce it wrong, but it means why? Why did you do this? Um, I also am a popcorn and Sour Patch Kid lover. I think it's the best combo ever. I'm probably listening to music-wise, BTS, Stray Kids, Taylor Swift, but a huge fan of heavy metal and EDM music. The kind of like one thing that I really won't listen to is country. I'm sorry to my country fans. It doesn't mean we can't be friends, though. Like, we can still be friends. It's okay. And my favorite season is winter. Sorry to my fall girlies, but I love a cold winter night with the stars and the full moon. I can stand outside and just like breathe that in. I don't know, there's some sort of like cosmic energy that I love about that. And so those are my vibes. Those are my vibes. Okay, so me and tropes. Die hard lover. Like once I love you, that's it. Like I am your ride or die. Always. Dual natured. I'm curious about a lot of different things. It's not because I'm flaky. It's just that I have two different sides of me that I love to play around with. I definitely argue by flirting. I will flirt with you in an argument all the time. It really depends on my mood and if I'm gonna be like a life of a party person or just the wallflower. I do love watching people because I love to see like what are they gonna do? Definitely use humor as a crutch. You can probably see this in my video. The nerves kind of start settling in, and I do some sort of like weird, goofy expression, or kind of like weird, or I don't know, say something weird thing, or I will swear often. I am an oversharer, and then I also forget what I've shared before. So if I tell you the same story twice, that's why. And then also dreamer because it's free. Dreams are free, guys. Don't be afraid to pursue them. Um, the pursuing part might not be free, but it's okay to believe in them. I see so many people so afraid to just like believe in their dreams. And that makes me sad. Definitely I've been an underdog my whole life. I have to work at things in order to get there. Would love to say luck is on my side so I can like manifest that into the universe, but that's not always the case. Um, and the last thing that's like a huge vibe of me is that I love empowered women. I love to feel empowered myself, and I'm not ashamed of that. And I reject all the taboos that are out there about like women should be in a certain role. In fact, the more you try to enforce that on me, the more I will challenge you on that. So there you have it. Okay, so enough about me. That was like a little bit of a tangent. We're here to talk about today why we love dark fantasy. I did not do any notes on these interview topics that I'm going to talk about today because I think it's more fun when it's just AWOL. Um, this is where they insert like a cute little like cat meme. Like, okay. So the first question really is like what drew me into dark fantasy romance in general? I've always been a fantasy lover. It's always been my favorite thing to read. I've been a fantasy lover even before like Harry Potter came out. A lot of people say like Harry Potter was my introduction. No, I'm trying to remember what I think it might have been Dragon Riders of Pern. No, even before that. I mean, like things like BFG, when you're talking about like giants and stuff like that, it's always been there. Um, but when I write, it tends to have a little bit more of a darker side to that. And I think that really comes from real life experiences. Not everything's cozy, not everything's happy in real life. And I think fantasy is a nice way of challenging some of the darker aspects of life that we live in, and facing them. So it doesn't like sugarcoat it. Um, the romance part of it, a lot of people, I think this is my opinion. A lot of people will mix up dark fantasy romance with like dark romance with a fantasy edge, and that's totally different. You would call that dark romance fantasy, right? You got to switch up the main title of that. I think what makes a dark fantasy romance dark are themes, just like I was saying. So, in my book, specifically Shadows Lost, I talk about infertility struggles. That's a darker theme. I also bring in a lot of like kind of grittiness and violence to my book just because those things exist. And whether we like to believe it or not, they are there. Yes, it's a little bit more flourished in the story, but also tastefully done in a way that applies to a story where it should actually be there. And so I'm drawn to that because it's like real life to me. Um, I don't like to sugarcoat things too much. I'm a happy person in real life, but in my mind, I understand that there's negative things that we don't like about this world. And so that's what draws me to that. And then my nature is to try to fix it. So then I'm gonna try to like bring in those vibes to kind of fix that. Um, I already talked about this, but the next question is like, what themes do I explore? It's like reading a trigger warning list, honestly. I explore violence. I explore kind of like that, uh, people using power over others. Specifically, I tend to have a strong feministic side to some of my main characters or even side characters. And so there's definitely that challenge of male dominance. I explore some versions of assault, rape, those kinds of things, because those things exist in our world. Um, what else? What other themes do I explore? I mean, there's so it's so intricate. It's not for me when I write, I don't write necessarily for a specific like niche market. I write the story and then I interweave these themes into it. So sometimes actually when I go to write like a trigger warning list, it's harder for me. Like I'll use my beta readers to help me with that because I feel like that I've woven it in so much, it's hard for me to tease out, like, oh, I wrote this trigger warning specifically because I know readers love this trigger warning, which is actually not what trigger warnings are there for. I've had this discussion with one of my editors who's also a psychologist, and she's like, Brie, trigger warnings are trigger warnings. They're meant there for people that have experienced those situations and like you don't want that to traumatize them again. You don't want them to relive those things again. And you want them to have a clear understanding of what they're getting into when they're reading these books. This is why, because I have some of these themes woven into my stories, that I specifically call it a dark fantasy romance. That's a trigger warning in itself. Dark isn't necessarily meant to be like this like fun genre. I mean, it is telling you that there are things explored in these books that are going to be a little bit harsher. Um, and so then the next question is like, why do readers connect with darker stories? And I think I already touched upon that. That's like a little like because it's real life. It's real life. Life is dark. I think the fantasy edge to it allows us to comprehend and think about it in a little bit different way, where we're not facing it head on and then finding solutions to them. And like also knowing like there's hope, there's light, there's something past this darkness, whatever we are facing. There's something past that that we can certainly explore and do better with. And then the next one is what emotions do you want readers to feel? I want you to feel whatever you're gonna fucking feel, okay? Like I am never gonna be the person like you need to feel this way, bro.
I'm not kidding,
Like
bro. I'm
no,
not kidding.
no. And you know what's very interesting is when I get feedback from my readers, I often get like different versions of their emotions. Like, oh my God, this part in your book made me cry so hard. Or like, I laughed so much at this part. I can't believe you wrote that. Those things, those emotions are fun. It's the reaction. I want a reaction from whatever. I don't want just like a blah scene, right? If I write something, I want it to be impactful on the page. Like every chapter, I feel like has to be impactful. There has to have meaning to it. And so if the best way to do that is to have emotion. Um, so like whatever you're gonna feel, feel it. Like let yourself feel it. I think writing is just kind of like beautiful in that way. And so I think that's kind of like the biggest compliment, like, oh my God, you like scarred me for life. Sometimes that's the biggest compliment. Um, I get that a lot, especially with my first book, Shadows Lost. Right here. I have my screen kind of blurred, so you guys can't like see it as well. How do I get that to work? Oh, there we go. Okay, like I focus it on me. This is Shadows Lost. This is a special edition. This is the first cover edition, and this is the one that readers will most commonly see right here. So Shadow's Lost is a really interesting story because it follows a self-exiled Shadow Fae. She's a general. She is basically buried by this like guilt of her past failures, and that's the key here. This is why it's very hard for me to compare my book to other books, is because we start off with somebody who is very, very powerful and failed. This is a reflection of my life, why infertility is woven into this story, because this is exactly how I felt when I wrote this story. Trigger warning for everyone, suffered from secondary infertility and miscarriages. So after my third miscarriage, I felt like a complete failure. But here I am, like a well-educated woman. I'm married. I have one kid already. And I felt like I had just failed at my true self. Um, and so this is how the main character kind of sees herself. And then she crosses paths with an alpha shifter Fae who literally has spent 100 years trying to find her and hunt her down. I mean, he's got his own secrets there that we don't really know why he's doing this. That's what the book continues to explore. So the book starts with these like what is going on here? And then the story starts unraveling and you start figuring out more and more about their past. So you start in the future with this story and then you start to learn about their past and how it is kind of like being brought back up into our future. But he still also believes that she's the key to saving the world. But like he is like kind of like a really amazing guy because he's just like, I don't give a fuck who you are or what you did. Like, you still are you, and that's important, and you're still here, and that's important. And he sort of just like accepts her for who she is. And you're just kind of like thinking, like, wow, what an amazing little dude. Not little, he's like 7 foot tall. But anyway, um, that would be like the millennial pitch of the story, right? Long-winded. It just gave you like a huge kind of synopsis of it. But in Shadows Lost, like if we were to do like a Gen Z like pitch of this story, it basically would be something like, hey, let me get this. Hot alpha shifter that won't take no for an answer. And a deadly shadow fae mommy that doesn't give a fuck. There's your There's your Gen Z. There's your Gen Z answer to that pitch of the book. So I it's a lot of fun to present this story to people, my dark fantasy romance version of it. What I get a lot of compliments on the unique world building. I will say that I never focus on world building when I'm writing, but it just is like, what makes sense in this scenario? What am I seeing? What am I feeling? What am I touching? Well, how are they interacting with your environment? Like the worst thing is like having a character that is just like stand still the whole time, right? So anyway, I get a lot of like, I love the creatures in your story. I think the most memorable one for most people is the were tree. He's kind of like this. So were trees are these trees that like bite people, and then when they bite them, they become wolves, and the wolves become the were tree's kind of like protector or friend for life. They stay by their side forever. And the were trees are very like all knowing, but they're like creaky and just like I don't want to say blunt, but they're kind of like they got a little bit of a humorous edge that's a little bit darker. They're kind of rare. But yeah, very, very, very cool creatures. The other compliment that I get about Shadows Lost is the different variations of Fae that I put in here. In this story, you're not going to find that crossover between like a human and a fae, or the crossover of like Earth to fairy, which is the world. But you are going to find lots of different Fae fractions. You have Shadow Fae, you have Shifter Fae, you have Elemental Fae, who usually have some sort of element to them that is specific, like wielders of wind, spirit, fire. And then from that, I separated them out into the Water Fae. People love the Water Fae world in Shadows Lost. If anybody, if you know, you know, but when I say wave rave, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. You know. And the other thing that people love about this story is the banter, not just between the FMC and the MMC, but there is a huge world of chosen family and side characters in the story that people almost like fall more in love with. They like want them to be part of their family. And there is this like fun, dynamic banter that happens each and every time with these people. And it's really, really great. It's really, really great. So the other thing is that people love the water dragon. So I mentioned dragons. As lovers of dragons, they're in the books. They definitely are. The water dragon Shen is a unique character because I put him in probably within the last 6 months of me finalizing the edits of this book. And so people love him, discover him, read the book, see if you like him yourself. He is kind of an arrogant asshole water dragon. Um, but he has his reasons. And then the other thing is like, when you talk about reader emotions, people hate the villain in my story, which is great. You're supposed to. Um, it's kind of like brings that, what makes a villain, right? What truly makes a villain? We have like our kind of sort of villains, our morally gray villains, that like red flag that you really want the FMC to end up with. Like they have some redeeming qualities. There's something about them that is kind of like super sweet. Maybe they're using like a villainous mask to hide their vulnerabilities underneath. But like a true villain doesn't have any more vulnerabilities. They literally have let go that side of themselves. There's no redeeming factor to them. And that's how I wrote Deirdre in the story, the former Queen of Fairy. I wrote her so that she would have zero redeeming factors. And it's really, really fun to see how much people just want to be like, they just like want to spit on it. They can't stand her, which is great because you guys are going to love the novella that's coming up in the future.
Isn't that amazing?
Because it's going to be all about her. It's going to be her origin novella of a villain. And I'm super excited to bring that to the table to people. So, um, all right. That is kind of like wrapping up my discussion about what we have going on for this vlog. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I wasn't talking too fast. You know, obviously, like I'll watch this back and see how well I did with it. But with that, I'm gonna bring to you guys a special clip of my book, Shadows Lost from the audiobook that was just released by Paige Reisenfeld. And she did a beautiful solo narration that I am going to play for you guys right now to finish up this segment of the story. And let's listen to it. Let's dive into the vibes of this.
Dust was everywhere, and it continued to sprinkle down from the sunlit sky, so thick in the air that I could scarcely breathe without inhaling the grit fully in my lungs. Yet here I stood, on a half-crumbled balcony, waiting. I was waiting. Sunlight broke through the thick air, highlighting the utter destruction of my home. The capital, the city of light, it was gone. A harsh, rattling breath escaped me as I took in the desolation. Gone were the elegant shops, luscious gardens, sparkling fountains. Just crumbled marble, tints of gold, and lush splintered wood covered our once sacred city. Worse, there was no sound. No cries of pain, no harsh sobs of loss. No chickadees trilling wildly looking for the comfort of their perches. Even the corrupted inner city, where the most wicked fae resided, was silent, buried beneath the rubble. Waiting. I was still waiting. Desperate for just one cry, to know that one pitiful soul still lived, still existed. It just couldn't be. I was part of an already dying race, abandoned by our goddess and cursed with infertility after a long bloody war over 1,000 years ago. Our extinction was inevitable, but it could have been slow. I could have made sure that what was left of the Fae lived a long, prosperous, and happy existence. Except I failed. I was their hope, their salvation, their dark hero. And I failed. And yet, I felt nothing. Nothing but hollow emptiness. I wasn't even able to feel the warmth of the sun's mocking rays. Waiting. I was still waiting. Not for hope. It was clear that time had passed. Dark, inky blackness oozed from the ruined city and gathered like a plume of smoke from a campfire. Finally, they were here. Infinite, ominous, dark. Shadows. So lifelike, they moved through the air with a sentient purpose, a deadly power unlike anything this world had ever seen. And they were mine. Instinctively, I reached outward to their darkness, allowing them to swarm my hand before wrapping themselves around my body, as if to thaw the now-frozen heart inside of me. She is gone, I whispered to them, and closed my eyes that burned with unshed tears. She was just dust now, forever gone, just like the rest of the Fae that lived here. Opening my eyes, I took one last look at the city I had dutifully served and destroyed. I was not the general they had hoped for, and I sure as goddess was not the heroine they had loved. I never deserved such love anyway. After all, monsters never did. And I was the worst monster around. Alive, but dead inside.
So, so good. If you guys are interested in the audiobook, you can find it. I'll post the link. It's always best to buy the audiobook from the narrator. Proceeds go straight to them. You're not going to find this on ACX or Audible, but it is available on multiple other platforms, Kobo. Um, okay, she's got it all listed in her profile. But if you do buy from her, it will go straight to your email. You'll have the link and you can get it all set up and you can listen to the rest. That was the beginning passage of the prologue from Shadows Lost, book one of my Remnant Archive series. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I also hope you all enjoyed this vlog. Like I said, this is going to be called Beneath the Shadows. I'm DK Cavaleri. Thank you so much for joining me, Heartface XO. Love you always. And remember, dreams are free. Enjoy your dark fantasy. Don't let anybody tell you how you're supposed to feel or live your life. Love you guys. And to all my feral gnomes out there, if you guys watch this video, you officially become a feral gnome. So welcome, my little savages.